Good evening, and welcome to Leadership Live 2021, week 30. Let me say that again. Did you hear me say week 30? This is the 30th week of 2021, and you are still here to experience Leadership Live with me and someone very special and amazing. But for those of you all, it's your very first time catching Leadership Live. First of all, welcome. Welcome. But second, you may be wondering, lady, who are you? And really, what is Leadership Live? Well, first and foremost, Leadership Live is a sharing of journeys. It's a sharing of journeys. In 2019, I got to come on live for 52 weeks, and I shared my leadership journeys, my experiences, and all the lessons that I learned, at least a lot of lessons I learned. I can't say I share them all because I'm learning new leadership lessons every single day. But here in 2021, God put on my heart that I needed to not only do it again, another 52 weeks, but I also need to do it with friends. And so this year, for the past 29 weeks, I have had a different guest every single week, and every single one has been phenomenal. Every single one has shared some wisdom, some knowledge, some experiences that have changed me and have changed the lives of so many of our viewers. Well, here we are on week 30, and we're going to do it all over again. But for those of you all like, well, lady, who are you to talk to anybody about leadership? Well, I am Dr. Renita L. Webb. I am an educational leadership strategist. That means that I work with growing and aspiring leaders to help them become more authentic in their leadership, to empower their followership, and at the end of the day, become more impactful to the world in general and period. I am also a veteran educator. I have served grades kindergarten through college. I am a wife and a mother of four kids. I birthed two and I own two. And let me tell you, that is a journey of leadership all in itself, as is the marital status. Let me tell you, if you don't know, now you know. But my journey with my family led me to write Stepmom, Trials, Tribulations, and Triumphs, editions 1 and 2. Also, I am the author of While You Are Sleeping, the perfect children of all ages books. Yes, it is the great bedtime story. I am also the founder of The Refining Life, whose mission is to provide you with experiences to have your mindset shifted so that you can lead a more positive and productive life. And ladies, we are gearing up for Refining the Mind Women's Conference, the seventh annual, and it will be September 25th. So mark your calendars and make sure you make your way to North Carolina for that amazing event. I am also a speaker. I am an encourager. I am a minister, and I am excited to be here with you. But that is all about me. But let me tell you that I am, matter of fact, I keep forgetting this thing, especially right now. I am a queen, honey. I am a queen, and I am a queen. And this is my first episode not being the East Coast USA National Talent Performer of the Year, because I just gave up that crown this weekend. But I am still the current reigning Mrs. Black North Carolina, as well as the Elite Southern Charms North Carolina Ultimate Grand Supreme. So I have to get used to not saying my other title, but it has been a wonderful year. And if you don't know about East Coast USA pageantry, get to know them as quite a wonderful system. But let me bring to you this amazing and beautiful woman. Look, just be ready. I done told you I was going to bring you somebody great every week. And here I am again with Princess Johnson.
Hi.
The crowd going wild. That's the crowd going wild. Hello. Yes. I am so happy to have you here with me this evening. I am honored for your yes. And thank you. You all, Princess is a new mommy, and she has a beautiful daughter. And she saw it not robbery to be here with us this evening, this Monday night, to share with us. So just know that should somebody make a special appearance, we do welcome her if she doesn't rock. But Princess, thank you so much for coming in this room.
Guys, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad it worked out that I could do
it. You all have been wanting Princess for a while, but we said we're going to make it work with our schedule, and we're going to make it work at some point in time. And here we are in week 30, this Monday night, making it happen. So thank you once again, Princess. But what I'm going to do is step back, because they need to hear some things about you, because you are quite phenomenal in your own right. And once again, I am honored to be connected with your life. So let me step back, and Princess, tell them all about you.
Yes. So I am the founder of Royal Expressions Contemporary Ballet here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I've been doing this work for 12 years in the nonprofit arts sector, and it has taught me a lot about leadership. Also, a wife. I've been married for 10 years, and we just had our first baby girl who is 3 months old. And that was quite a journey in and of itself, which I'll probably dig into that some as we talk today. So, yes, I love dance. I love people. I love inspiring people, and dance is the tool that I use to make that happen.
Well, let me tell you all, she is quite humble with that because I had the opportunity to be a part of her Dancing Dreamers program.
Yes.
So not only does she have a dance studio, she also does all of these other things. So I'm sure she was going to touch on more of it, but please do not think this is a one-dimensional person. Yes, she's a wife. Yes, she is a mother. Yes, she is a studio owner. But when she said nonprofit, honey, she does it in a nonprofit way. So that's a whole different
Oh, man.
that is, the nonprofit sector is an animal all in itself, absolutely. And you do so, and you do so well. You walk your journey. You are resilient. You are fabulous. And once again, I am honored to be connected with you. But your topic, your topic is an amazing one, and one that I think we're going to get a chance to talk about through a lens that we don't normally get to, and that is be vulnerable.
Yep. Be
Be
vulnerable.
So oftentimes we hear about vulnerability from a number of sources, and those sources don't always speak to our experience. Give me 1 second here, but production is being productiony.
You're fine.
There we go. So we don't always get to hear it from our experience and what we really go through. And culturally, vulnerability plays out in a lot of different ways. So hearing about it from our perspective, I think gives a different twist on how we handle vulnerability. But when you were thinking about vulnerability, when you decided that this was your topic tonight, okay, let's get it. Where are we going?
Yes. So, at first, I want to talk about being authentic. And today, I got up this morning. I was like, "That's not it either. It's more about the vulnerability that happens when you decide to be authentically you. It leads you onto this journey of vulnerability, and that's pretty much where I saw a shift in my career. I saw a shift in me as a leader, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a wife. Me being able to be more vulnerable as a Black woman is a form of resistance. For so long, when I first started my company, I followed the rules. I did things the way they're supposed to be. I was very, I guess, like, okay, this is how it's done, then that's fine. I'll just continue to keep trying to work in this system of how things are done. And we all have heard the discussions of systemic racism, and I had to step up and be loud and speak about how systems in the nonprofit sector, in the arts sector, in my community were making it difficult for me to achieve the success that I had in mind, because we were being overlooked. We were not being heard. We were not being seen. We were constantly told that we're not good enough. And so for me, I had to put myself in a place of first being authentic, first showing up and reminding people I am a Black woman in this white space, being bold enough to say that, and then being vulnerable to the repercussions that came with that statement. So vulnerability to me is the key to really activating your authenticity and to get people to hear you and see you. And it's not just like showing up and crying or something. It's way deeper than that. It's literally putting something out there into the atmosphere and knowing that you're going to get backlash from it, and being ready for that, being strong and showing your true emotions and telling your true story. And so I got to a point in my career where things were just colliding in my personal life, things were colliding in my business life. And I couldn't take it anymore. I was just under so much pressure. And so I just started speaking up and speaking out about all the things and just telling my story and being honest and truthful about where I was and who I was. And that just shifted me into this new way of leading and becoming a better leader for the people that I serve and the people that work at Royal Expressions.
Wow. Okay. I say there are probably 18 million things we could unpack from that moment, but what I really want to start with is the fact that you said that you had to go against what was and what used to be and what was supposed to be, and be ready, just take the backlash from that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that this is a form of resistance. And so, gosh, let's just start with going against the grain. Going against the grain. So people look at, dance as something that is very grainy. People dance, it's great. It makes people happy. But even in your way of doing things, how did you take that very comfortable space for a lot of people? I mean, there's a whole song about Whitney Houston. She wanted to dance with somebody. We want to dance.
Yes.
How do you go from this very comfortable kind of subject matter and then utilize it as this form of resistance and going against the grain?
Yeah. So basically, I'll just get right down to it because we're talking about vulnerability. I had to call out not just a system, but the key players in the system. And literally, the way the arts sector is set up in our community, basically on the national level, there's arts funding that is supposed to be for our entire nation, and it goes into all the different states, and then the states give it out to different companies. Well, the way North Carolina is set up is each county has a representative that receives funding, and then they're supposed to divvy it out to the different arts organizations in the city. Our person is Arts Greensboro. And this is before Creative Greensboro. That's a new player in the system. In 2017, I had a show because we not only teach dancers, we also employ dancers here. We're a professional company, and we've been creating new work since 2010. And so we had a show that we do called 31, and it's a show to uplift, inspire, and empower women. And I know this was my turning point because that show was our least attended show. And I went to Facebook, and I was just so frustrated because I kept trying to build, and it just kept feeling like something was just kept pushing us down, and we couldn't ever get to where we wanted to be. Year after year, I was writing grants, asking for funding, looking for money, dollars from corporate people, and sitting in these meetings and going and showing up and being the only Black face and all these things, letting people know who I am, building relationships, doing all the things you're supposed to do. But we were constantly getting rejection letters or underfunded, especially by Arts Greensboro. And so it makes it hard to, one, pay your dancers who you employ a fair and equal wage. Lucky for me, we had some really amazing dancers who probably would have danced for free, but I refused to let them do that because we want to be a professional company. So we had that. It made it hard for us to market it. We had no money for marketing. Paying for the venue was sometimes like, I don't even know how we pulled it off. So we weren't able to really produce shows in the caliber of which we imagined them because we weren't getting the funding that we needed to make that happen. And so we were always in this vicious cycle. We get to the table and they're like, oh, too bad their artistic quality isn't good. So I started reading up and I realized that across in our nation, we have an issue with arts funding not going to organizations led by people of color, and especially organizations led by Black people. And I'm like, really? So I started speaking up about it publicly on my Facebook page. At this point, a lot of people knew who I was. People knew who I was, and they continued to overlook me. They love to have me in the room. They love me having me in spaces. They love who I was, but they didn't ever want to invest in me or what I was trying to do in our community. And so I started speaking out against it, and saying that you guys aren't funding any Black organizations in Greensboro. And if you look around, we don't have a top performing Black arts organization in Greensboro. But we should, because there is funding available for that to happen, but we don't. The closest Black arts organization in our state would be the Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem, and that is it. There's nothing else. I've looked. That's it. So our state is failing us. Our local arts council is failing us. And I had to start speaking up against it. And what immediately happened is my white friends who meant well heard from their white friends, and they came to support me as a white friend by telling me, well, you better stop because you're ruffling some feathers and you might make some people upset. I was like, well, let them get upset because I am. Because at this point, you're not giving me anything anyway. So what am I losing? I was just at a place where I was like, I'm losing anyway. So I'll just continue to lose and speak up. And so maybe we can shed a light on what's happening. Fast forward to 2020, George Floyd gets killed. And all of a sudden, racial equity across all these sectors, all these organizations, all these different fields has become a thing. Everybody's looking at their diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everybody's hiring somebody. Now they're like, oh, Princess, I remember when you were talking about this stuff. Yeah, so how can we help you now? So now it's a thing. And because I started speaking on it early on, I've seen a shift, and now people hear me. Now people see me because I allowed myself to be vulnerable. And it took years. This was in 2017 I started this conversation. It's 2020 before I saw anything shift. So it's a whole 4 years before they were like, oh, I get it.
And okay, so let's just can we put a pencil there for a second? One, thank you. As an artist, because I do consider myself an artist in North Carolina, I thank you for being willing to, in some ways, potentially be a martyr for the rest of the arts community in our state. So I want to say that. Second, your picture of vulnerability, even in the face of well-meaning friends, shows a strength like none other. Mm-hmm. But then for your work that you've been working very hard for since 2017, to only catch leverage with a national tragedy that happened to have gotten caught on tape, started speaking for people, and people really saw the power in the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies didn't push it in the way that they do now until that happened, until that particular moment happened, because it hasn't happened. We've been talking about this for a while. Like, I think,
wow. I mean, I was late to the game, honestly, in 2017.
Yeah, but I just think about national tragedies that really started picking up leverage. I think about, starting with probably in recent times with Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, I feel like Trayvon Martin is the And because it had been quiet after Rodney King.
Yes. And so Trayvon
quiet.
And then it starts picking up these things, and you start having these national conversations about that. You start having national conversations around the Karens. And with all these different national conversations start starting to take place. And so work that you had chosen to be vulnerable about for years started really gaining traction over these national tragedies.
Right.
So being vulnerable a lot of times happens when people aren't ready for it. And so as a leader, you chose vulnerability that could be detrimental. Once again, you could have been a potential martyr. Beautifully, your organization still exists. You're still thriving. You're still making great strides and changes. You're doing what you need to do. You pivoted in some ways when you needed to. You're doing great things. But your company could have gone under for your willingness to be vulnerable and use your voice. Leaders, hear from this story. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you are going to have to lead in an unpopular way to get the needs of your organization met. Sometimes you're going to have to lead in an unpopular way to make the change and the impact that needs to be made. You will not always be a loved leader, even when you are doing the right thing.
Yep.
You will not always be the loved leader, even when you are doing the right thing. Because not everybody's ready for the right. We've been living in Rome for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are complacent to the place where they are, and sometimes you'll be shocked at the people who fight against your urge for a positive change for the whole. Because some people who may look like you, who may have come from where you come from, that may live in the same culture that you do, may be so used to their complacency. They may be so used to the status quo. They may fight change because change is scary. Change is scary.
Yeah.
But the leader who is vulnerable and willing to put that thing out there, even when it's not popular yet. Like, I'm sure you got a whole bunch of people on board with you now. Because it's popular.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I'm called upon quite frequently. It's kind of funny because now funders contact me to tell me, make sure you apply for this. Yeah. So it's interesting. And it took me a while to even, when you put yourself out there and you make yourself vulnerable like that, it leaves you in this really strange mental space. And it took me a while to even like be happy when the things were changing, because you're just so bitter about like, why did it take this to get this? And you almost feel like you're capitalizing off of a man's death. And it's an awful feeling. It really is. And you just feel like they're so late, but it's not like you're going to turn away. This is what you've been fighting for. This is what you've been wanting. So it really left me in a place where I felt just like, yeah, bittersweet. Even when I started with the whole vulnerability, going down that path and sharing my story, not just as for my business, but just my personal life. My husband and I, we were unable to conceive a child, and we had been going through that. So like my business was failing. I felt like I was failing as a woman because I can't conceive a child. All that was colliding together at the same time. My husband had been diagnosed with epilepsy. He, it was just, so my personal life kind of just pushed me to like, either this thing is going to work or it's not going to work. And part of what pushed me to be more and more vulnerable is I put myself on a timeline. I said, if I get to 2020 and things are still this way, I'm out. I want nothing else to do with it. I'm walking away. I will have done what I said I'm going to do. My dream manifested, not the way I wanted it to, but I was at peace with that. Like I was ready to walk away. And so that's why I was like willing to just, I'm just going to talk about this stuff. I'm just going to put it out there and I'm going to say it because it doesn't matter. I'm shutting down in 2020 anyway if it doesn't work. This was my Hail Mary. And it did work, but sometimes I do wonder, like, what if George Floyd didn't happen? Would they have ever heard? Would they have ever seen? Or would I just seem like some crazy mad Black woman
Wow.
who's just bitter because she doesn't get as much funding as the white organizations?
Wow.
I don't know. But I was willing to take the chance and just put it out there and fight it. But I had a timeline. I had an expiration date on how long I would fight it because I knew that this was a mental battle, and it did it. I ended up having to seek therapy. I started going to counseling to help me navigate this time in my life, all the different things that were just not working, that I was trying to get to work at the same time. So yeah, and that takes vulnerability to call and make an appointment with a therapist, to call and make an appointment to figure out why you can't conceive a child. All of that stuff, it takes vulnerability.
Right. Let me tell you, you have been so strong for so long. So wow. Okay. So you have taken like 88,000 leadership hits in your life, right? But you keep doing the work. Why?
I feel that this is what I'm called to do. I've always just been drawn to dance. Any opportunity I've had to leave and not not dance, it just didn't seem right to not dance. When I started, well, first off, I got to do like some lessons when I was younger. I did a couple of stints at the dance studio, nothing consistent. I did like, I think a little bit when I was in kindergarten and another time in third grade. The rest was just me in my room creating stuff. My dad was a pastor and we all got our designated roles. I was the dancer. So I danced in my room. I was more of a choreographer than a dancer because I didn't really know terminology. I just knew I had to move, and I love to move, and I love to create with my body. That was my thing. And so when I got to high school, I got to be on a dance team and I got to do marching band. And I was like, I'm getting kind of good at this because I was actually pretty bad once I got into those. I don't know how I made these teams, but I did. But I guess the passion won. But then when it was time to graduate, most kids, when they get to that point, they usually are like, okay, now I will pursue my career as doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever it is that people want to do. But I mean, I kept coming back to dance. Like, how can I make a career of dance? And so I decided I want to have a dance studio. But because I love to choreograph, I was like, but I want to have a company. I want to do that. I want to create. I want to keep creating. I'm not done. There's so much I can do now. So that's what I really wanted to do. And so it's always been a part of me. No one in my family dances. I didn't have a grandma, aunt, nobody. It's just me. I'm the only one that's serious about it. And we don't know where it came from. So I just give it to God because we don't know. Like my parents, they didn't. So it's just something I have to do. So me saying I'm ready to walk away, I was at my wit's end, like just tired and done, and just didn't want to keep fighting for something that I love. Like it's like being in a bad relationship. Who wants to do that? Right. So yeah, I was ready to walk away, but before I did, I had to tell dance how I was feeling, and that meant I had to talk to my community. I had to tell them, and I remember I had these plans. I was like, and when I walk away, I'm writing an open letter. I'm gonna tell them all what they
where they can go
and to me, and why I had to close, and why like, I was ready.
Wow.
So yeah,
but it was not to be so. So I venture to say I do not know a leader that has not quit before. Now, And I speak this from experience. I remember being a school principal, and literally, I remember one day packing up my office. I was in there getting it. I packed up everything I could find. But I had staff members who knew I was done, done. And they came in there, they were helping me pack. And then somebody called somebody, and that somebody came to see me. They were like, whoa, whoa. I said, I'm out. I am done. I am tired. I have been fighting these fights. It is no longer for me. I never wanted to be an educator in the first place. I don't know how I got here, but I'm here and I'm done. I'm done. And I had a conversation, so this is whenever I work with my leadership clients, the very first thing we work on is one, who they are, but then also looking at why. Why are you going on this journey? And what is that thing? What is that thing that's so strong that on your worst day, when nobody is agreeing, when nobody is going along with what you want to do, and I mean, you're doing the right thing. Like, this is not you need to change. Nobody even
exactly. That was what was most frustrating, I think, for me. Is like, yeah, I've done it because everybody wanted to say, well, I'm doing all of that. I know it's not me, because for so long I kept fixing me. I was going to all these classes and getting this leadership thing. I got plaques on my wall. I got trophy. I got all kinds of certificates for all these things, courses I completed to do better at my job, to work on me, fix me. And then I was like, I'm not the problem in the system.
And it comes to that place where you realize, okay, it's not me. I've done me. I have fixed me. I've worked on me. I have found my flaws. I am still finding them. But this particular thing right here, this is not me. And so I quit. And then that why goes, oh. Like, you go through every one of them O's. It's like, oh, crap. I got to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
I can't quit today. Because let me tell you, that was a day. I want to take them things, put it in my car. Matter of fact, I took at least 2 bucks. I'm done. I'm not coming back. But I mean, at that point in time, too, there was kind of this master thought that though I am going to return, I know that this is not where the end is for me. So I'm going to do my good work. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to finish the assignment, because I truly believe when God sends us to something, it's for a reason. So I'm going to complete this assignment. And there was some days I'm like, Lord, is it finished yet? I am finished. Can it be finished? It's not finished. What's the rest of this assignment? And so I knew my why for that. And I knew my desire, and I knew what had been placed on my heart. I knew what had been the passion. And that pushed me, even on the days where, I mean, like, every single thing that you could think of going wrong with. And so in that work, so I think about even in quitting, even when you don't quit, when you don't quit, there's vulnerability in that, because that is the moment where you will lay it on the table. You lay every drop of it on the table, and you won't feel bad about it. Oh no, because I'm quitting today. You about to hear this from me today. This is wrong. This is where I am. I am kaput, kapooey, and all of that. Forget y'all.
Yep.
And then sometimes that's when some people are like, well, thank you for finally saying that. I was wondering how you felt about it. Thank you for letting that out. I've been feeling the same way too.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are so unvulnerable that we push people away. We are so unvulnerable that we can't get to the heart of what we're trying to do. We're not inspiring anybody. We're not empowering anybody, because we're so unvulnerable. If we were a little less headstrong, if we didn't try to be so strong in everything in every moment, we would help strengthen other people around us.
And it has. I've seen our organization just really come together. They really started to step up. They're like, okay, Princess really needs some help. Like, and it's like they know, okay, Princess doesn't ask for help, but now I know she needs help, and I'm going to get it out of her what she needs. So, I mean, they will ask me in 10 different ways, and no, we need. And now it's like the team has their roles and their responsibilities, and so much weight has been lifted off of me, because I've been able to. I had a breakdown in front of my dancers and my staff. I mean, I just was like, I can't go anymore. My husband's having seizures, and I can't get pregnant. It's like one of them type of moments. And it was like, it pushed, I'll be honest, I think it off-put some people. That's fine. I get it. Sometimes people have been vulnerable because you're not vulnerable. You can't accept another person being vulnerable. So I know that happened, but it also, the team that I needed is here. And then once I got pregnant, it was like, that's a whole nother story. We ended up doing IVF if anyone cares. But then I ended up getting pregnant, and I really had, that took my vulnerability to even another level, because we all, well, maybe not everyone knows, but pregnant people who have been pregnant know that you have to have a certain level of vulnerability throughout the pregnancy, at the delivery, for sure.
Right.
After you've had the child, you have to be willing to like let people in. Like, that is not a time to be trying to be a strong person who doesn't need anyone, because you need people. This has shifted my whole life into what, now that you're down this vulnerability road, you're just stuck on it because now you have this child and you need to do what's right for her. This isn't about you being prideful. You have to lay that pride to the side and take care of this child who needs you. And that requires vulnerability as well.
So I told you all in my intro, being a mother is a leadership role like none other. Like that. Let's be real. You have to be a leader in order to be effective in either set of those relationships. You have got to be a leader. You have got to be able to lead yourself. As a parent, you have to be able to lead your children. That's part of your charge. You are to train them up in the way they should go. And as a spouse, as a partner, you have got to be able to take a leadership role. But also in that role, you also got to know when to step it forward and when to step it back. And that's an empowerment piece. Sometimes we get frustrated and upset because our partners don't do what we need them to do, what we desire for them to do, because we're too busy being a strong person. We refuse to be vulnerable.
Yeah. And so many relationships end because of that.
Oh. And then you learn so much later. You learn so much in that final argument. You things that you probably could have worked through, but that final argument, it's just like when
it's like, it's too late now. We done got here.
Just like when you're quitting, and sometimes it results in you not quitting. And it could be relationship too. You quit in a relationship, but sometimes you end up not quitting because you discover what it was in that final argument.
Right.
Because then you're willing to lay it all on the table. I don't care about being vulnerable now. I'm done with you. So here, you about to hear everything I ever want to say.
Yep.
And if you had told them that in bite-sized pieces, when the things were really going down and you just ate it, and you were mad then. Leaders, you were frustrated then. You were frustrated when somebody kept coming late to work. You were frustrated when you couldn't find the help that you needed. You were frustrated when you were you felt like you were doing everything by yourself and nobody else was doing anything. You had 15 employees and only one was working. They in there doing something, but you don't know what they're doing. They show up every day, but you don't know what they're doing because they're not really helping to get to the heart of it. Sometimes it's you. You're too busy holding it back, holding it in. Oh no, I'm so strong. No, sometimes you got to say, help me. Help me.
Yeah.
This is what I need. This is how I need it. Set the expectations and make the things clear. Be vulnerable. Honey, when I say this, the topic of topics right here. The topic of topics. But as we're winding down this evening, are there any particular thoughts? Hello, baby girl.
Shane, I'm still on my call. I'm still on my call.
You got a ball?
No. Well, we're recording, so.
But
yeah, baby,
look, it's a beautiful thing.
I'm talking about the other baby.
Look, it's a beautiful thing. But are there any last tips, thoughts that you want to give to the audience in this realm of vulnerability?
Yeah, don't wait to be vulnerable, because I feel like sometimes if you wait, then it could backfire on you. Luckily for me, it didn't. But because my vulnerability came from a place of anger, and that's really not where you want to be. Um, and that's really why I had to seek so much counseling and therapy, because at that point I was just mad at the world. And luckily for me, I know how to handle my anger. So I guess I didn't lay it all out there for everyone else to see. I wasn't fully vulnerable with how angry I was, but definitely when you know those vulnerable moments, and a lot of times no, I'm not going to say that. No, I'm not going to do that. Got to keep the peace, and sometimes that's not keeping peace, then because then you're at war within yourself. So definitely try to take those moments and be vulnerable at that moment. So I've learned to really start speaking up and saying what I need and what I don't need right away, instead of letting things pile up and then put on everybody. So, you can be vulnerable and not angry. It is very possible. So now that's where I am with my vulnerability. It's not letting my anger lead it, but just being in tune with my feelings and my emotions, and understanding that I am allowed to lead differently as a Black woman. I don't have to lead in the way these programs and things that I subscribe to, and these different settings I went to that taught me how to be a leader. I pretty much scrapped most of that stuff. There's one training I had that I truly enjoyed and loved, which kind of put me down this path of authenticity and then shoved me into the vulnerability. But other than that, in which out of a lot of leadership courses, only one really still resonates with me to this day. The rest of them are just didn't speak to me as a Black woman.
Mm. And you know what? And I think that, and it could be culturally because of who I am. That's why I always lead with authenticity. We have to deal with you. We have to
Which
be
is what
you.
the basis of the one training I liked, that was the basis of it. Be authentic. Like,
Yeah, be you. That's the only way you can lead every day and never feel like you lost yourself.
right.
Yeah. Well, so let's clear up some things. You don't have to be angry to be vulnerable. You don't have to be sad and be a punk to be vulnerable. You don't have to be wimpy swimpy to be vulnerable. You can be clear. You can be honest. All of this goes into vulnerability. You have to know your own needs. You have to be self-aware. Like, it takes strength. It takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of amazingness to be vulnerable in an effective way. So employ the tool. Vulnerability can work for you in such an amazing way if you work it right.
Yep.
If you
It
work.
can.
Mm-hmm.
It can. It's one of the best things. Even if it failed and I didn't see things get better, just getting that off your chest and being able to share your truth was worth it for me. Like, this other stuff is just residual. It's like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna call them out so then they can fund me. Like, I really knew I was like self-destructing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I already knew, like, we know how the system works, systemic racism. When we speak against the system, we're biting the hand that feeds us, even though it wasn't feeding me. But I already knew they were going to just not. And they did. Like, I didn't get anything. Like, one year I got nothing. And then the next year was like, here's a little something. So, I mean, I had no expectation. Like, I'll be vulnerable and then they'll, like, it was like, they don't hear me and I'm sick of it. I'm calling them out.
Done.
Done. That was for me. Like, right. I didn't expect them to turn around and be like, oh, we hear you. Here you go. Like, well, thank you.
Right. Because it doesn't always work that way. But once again, it happened with vulnerability met tragedy. And that created change.
Yeah. So I'm not saying vulnerability will, like, all of a sudden your whole, like, all the things you wanted will happen. No, it's an internal work so that you can just be a better leader and navigate when it doesn't work or when it does.
Oh, that's good. Well, Princess, even though vulnerability is not what you talk about every day in the realm of dance, but I think that you help people express their vulnerability and some vulnerable subjects through your works. if people want to follow you, how do they follow Princess Johnson?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Princess J Loves Ballet. That's probably the best way to follow me. And then good old fashioned Google search. There's not a lot of us. There are some other Princess Johnsons, but just look for my face.
Well, if you want to support her, please make sure that one, you reach out to her. She just told you how to follow her on Instagram, but also www.royalexpressions.org is her organization, her website. Find out more about them and all the amazing things that she does with her company and her school. Princess, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad this worked out.
Yes, you have pushed us to think about our leadership journey in a new way, in a more vulnerable way, and potentially a more effective way.
Yeah.
So, everybody, thank you once again for joining me for week 30 of Leadership Live with Dr. Renita and friends here in 2021. As I promised you, and I have made good on my word, 30 weeks straight of amazingness, and week 31 will be no different. So, I'll see you all next Monday right here at 9 o'clock. And as a reminder, always, always, always keep your leadership all the way live. See you next Monday. Bye.
Bye.